Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us for a Tax Practitioners Board webinar. My name is Ashley Dowsard, and I'm hosting today's session. Today, I'm joining you from Ngunnawal and Ngambri country. I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of country throughout Australia and their continuing connection to land, waters, and community. I'd like to pay my respect to them and their cultures and elders, past and present. To begin, I have some quick housekeeping messages. First, to access today's slides, you can visit our webinars resources hub at tpb.gov.au/webinar-hub. We'll also email you a copy of the slides following the webinar. Today's webinar counts towards your continuing professional education or CPE, and you can claim 1 hour for attending. In relation to claiming your CPE, we will issue an attendance certificate to those of you staying online for the webinar today. Today we'll begin with a quick refresher on the TPB's mental health and wellbeing policy. Then I'll hand you over to our Beyond Blue presenters who will be sharing insights and offer support, solutions, and strategies to help you take care of yourself and others. And at the end of the webinar, we'll answer some of the questions we received during the session today. So make sure you submit your questions via the Q&A. To find the Q&A, simply hover your mouse over the screen and a range of icons will appear on the bottom of your screen. You can also use the chat function to speak with other participants. We won't be monitoring the chat closely throughout the presentation, so if you want a response from us, be sure to use the Q&A. To disable any of these functions, simply hover over the relevant icon and unselect Show Preview. So let's take a look at our mental health and wellbeing CPE policy. We recognise the importance of managing your mental health and wellbeing, which is why our CPE policy helps support you. As I'm sure you all know, when it comes to CPE, the CPE activities you undertake must be relevant to the tax or BAS services you provide. However, these CPE activities need not be limited to only those areas that help improve your technical knowledge. Other areas such as practice management and ethics are also relevant and important to ensure you provide a competent service to your clients. Importantly, for today's conversation, your CPE activities can also include up to 10% of educative health and wellbeing activities over your CPE period. These activities could include attending courses or webinars about how to manage stress and self-care and supporting the mental health and wellbeing of your staff. Now, we're very fortunate to have representatives from Beyond Blue joining us today. I'd like to introduce Tim Hoopmann and Mel Novak. Tim is a small business owner and small business advisor. Mel is a small business engagement senior advisor. Thank you both for your time today. Over to you, Tim, to get things started.
Thanks very much, Ashley, and welcome everybody. I see lots of welcomes and hellos and good mornings in the chat. So hello and good morning to everybody out there, and for taking some time out of your very busy schedule to listen to us talk about better mental health and self-care and looking after ourselves. Life's pretty challenging. We all know that. And as a small business owner, it can be unbelievably challenging. So what is very important is that today and in this session, you're putting well-being first. You're coming along, you're taking an hour out of your schedule, and you're going to put your well-being first. And what I hope is take a few points away from our session that could help you, or they might be able to help people around you that are in need. It's important that we prioritize and focus on ourselves, even when it's really challenging to do that as a small business owner. Next slide, thanks. We've got lots to cover. It's really jam-packed. It's really exciting. And I know that you'll get some really good information to take away for yourself, but also in particular, potentially for your clients. I like to use paper and a pen. So I've still got my notes here and I like to scribble a bit as I go. So some people like to do that. Some people might like just to take a photo of a slide and write some notes down. Ashley did say that the slides would be shared with everybody. But, you know, whatever way you want to remember this session, do it in your way. And again, congratulations to you for turning up, and in particular for taking care of you. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little about the small business landscape. Probably first and foremost, it's really significant in Australia, and it's really important. So you as individuals are very important in the Australian business sector. So please always remember that, and always remember the great work that you do for everybody around you. So it's a really interesting sector, but it has its challenges. So a lot of you are most of you are small business owners, but some of you are sole traders, some of you also have staff. And that can sometimes create a feeling of loneliness. So having a group such as yours to get together with is always a really good thing to do, but also to reach out to one another. You know, the small business landscape contributes a third of the total Australian GDP. It's really important. It's really essential, and it needs to be continuing to be important and central in Australia. So thank you for the great work you do. But there are other challenges. You know, businesses are becoming insolvent. The cost of running a business is high. And so, you know, things like anxiety and depression are on the rise. So we know those things are happening. That's a given. But the most important thing then is, what are we going to do about it? And I think what you'll find today is you'll get some information that'll help you if you're feeling a little lonely, if you're feeling a little more stressed or anxious, and some of those challenges are, you know, real to you in your business. The next slide, please. You know, the business stressors really have a high impact on our mental health. And each and every one of us has these stresses in different ways. And I mean, there's so many of them here. They're quite large and quite daunting. But I think the thing to remember is these stresses are in our lives. It's really important that we understand and acknowledge them. And then what we do is we work out how we're going to deal with them. So from that perspective, is each and every one of you have a think about which one of those stresses are probably more prevalent to you. Because yes, there are a lot there, but all of them are not prevalent to all of us. But some of them that are prevalent to me would be different to each of you. So make sure that you understand what the stresses in your life are, and then we can think about the things that you can do to look after them. So the next slide, please. This is a really important slide. I'm not sure whether many or any of you have seen this, but when I started speaking for Beyond Blue, I learnt about the mental health continuum, and it was probably one of the greatest things that I learnt. And I think the most important thing around this is that our mental health is not a static state. I used to think that my mental health was good or it was bad. I didn't understand that there was an in-between. We move along a scale, and in most cases, we sit in the green area with flourishing and or healthy. But at times, personal and work stresses come into our lives, and we will move along this continuum. Now, sometimes we will move from day to day, just a little bit along the scale. But at other times, if there are great pressures in our life, we may move into the at-risk or the struggling area. And again, one of the things about that I've learned is when we do that, or if that starts to happen, then the first thing not to do is to punish yourself. And I think the thing that I've learned from it is that you acknowledge it and understand then what you need to do to help you look after yourself. So we do move along in this continuum. It's really important that we understand that our mental health moves. But when we are under duress or stress for long periods of time and we start to move into the at-risk or struggling area, and you can see some of the personal signs that might indicate that, change in behavior, things like withdrawing, taking longer time to complete tasks, feeling really tired, or there might be considerable at-work signs that come into play. So when you feel that your stress is increasing, when you see some of those personal or work signs, the very first thing that I think to do is to acknowledge them and then work out what am I going to do about them. So if nothing else you take away from the mental health continuum is mental health is not a static state. We move around, but we must be mindful of how we move along that scale. Thanks very much. Okay, so I probably don't need to tell you where you sit in terms of prioritizing yourselves. So as a small business owner, we have a lot, well, I talk in terms of a lot of masters. We have staff, you have a lot of legal and compliance. We have to manage day-to-day operations, we have the tax office, we have customers, we need to look after all of those people, and it is very, very stressful. And there is a lot of things that you need to do as a business owner. And particularly, as I found when I was a small business owner, there were a lot of things that I had to deal with that I didn't really feel I had the knowledge for. Often there's a lot of HR things, there's a lot of management, there's all sorts of things that come into play. So that can be very challenging and very stressful. And then when we look at that, where we prioritize ourselves in managing all those responsibilities, is we often put ourselves pretty close to the bottom. Everybody else, everything else seems to come first. So I think the important thing about that is understanding not only the responsibilities that we have, but also the importance that we are in that situation. So if I look at it in terms of being a small business owner, if I prioritize myself last, then at some stage I will struggle to fulfill those responsibilities as a small business owner. So self-care becomes really important. And a lot of you might say, yes, but I don't have time, or there are so many demands, and I have family, I have friends, I have my business, I have all sorts of things in my life. But the important thing to remember is you need to allocate time for self-care, because you have a lot of responsibilities in your business and also in your personal life. So how do you go about mixing that and making sure that you are taking time for yourself? One of the great things to do is to learn. So you learn a bit about what's stressful in my life. You learn a little bit about how to deal with those things, so that when you are working hard on your responsibilities and you feel like you're not looking after yourself, you can just stop and take a little time. And we'll talk in a minute about some of the things that we can do as individuals. Thank you. Okay, let's now have a look at, there's 5 really good strategies that I'd like to cover off today. And I think you'll be able to go away with some really helpful some really helpful points here. So let's move to the first one, please. Controlling your breathing. Do you know what? I did a bit of that before I came on to this session today. There's nothing better than taking a few deep breaths when you're about to step into a meeting, a webinar, talking to a lot of people, or in any situation. Or sometimes you may be in a situation where you're feeling quite anxious, and to control your breathing is a really, really powerful thing to do. And one of the things I'll share with you that somebody taught me is when you do it, bring your hand just over above your heart, and you just take a few breaths. You put your hand there, both hands there, whatever you feel comfortable with, and just take a few deep breaths. And sometimes you can do that by stepping out of the situation. So you might have a busy call at work, or you might have been in a busy meeting. And at the end of that, you might just step outside, you might step into the sunshine, and you might take a few deep breaths. Controlling your breathing is really, really helpful. And it's something that you can do on a regular basis just to center yourself and to keep yourself a little calm. This is really an important one, and one that I do quite a lot. And again, as I've said, stepping outside or away from the busy situation can be really great to do it then. And give it a try putting the hand just over the heart. Next slide, please. Checking your thinking. I was thinking about this slide this morning, and I was reading a lot of the news and, getting into, the day and reading emails and doing all sorts of things. And I really had to check my thinking. And I did say to myself, why am I reading so much news before I'm coming into this meeting? Is it going to serve me any well? So, because those sort of things have high impact on my thinking. So when I check my thinking, one of the things that I do is I like to think about not in my thoughts, but what my thoughts are doing, and also about how I can keep them relatively positive. Now, I don't believe that we have to be positive, that I have to be positive all the time. What I do think is that I have to understand what my thinking is doing and how my thoughts are going, because we have so many of those thoughts a day. And just because we have a thought doesn't actually mean that it is real. I don't know if you've been in situations where you've had a lot of thoughts coming and you go, oh my God, this is just too much. And then I've caught myself and I've gone, oh, yes, okay, some of those are quite negative, but are they real? And how do I bring that down and center it in a bit? So you can ask yourself things like, what's the evidence for and against? So just because we have a thought, is it real? What is my interpretation of that? And I suppose, why am I thinking that at this particular point in time? Has there been a stressor coming at me? Has there been a lot of information that I've been consuming that have probably driven those thoughts, and in some cases, those negative thoughts? Because we have a lot of them, and I certainly am a person that processes a lot of information, has a lot of thoughts. And what I do need to do is I need to keep myself in check, and I need to think about those thoughts. And I kind of need to analyze them and filter them down and go, okay, how are they helping me, or how are they not helping me? Are they real, or have I got things in a better perspective, and how can I move forward with that? So are they balanced? Are they thoughtful? Are they helpful? It's really challenging when you're thinking these negative thoughts, but when you do catch yourself do it, maybe take a deep breath, like we were talking about before, just kind of check those thoughts. Are they real? Is that a real situation that I've been in? And then, one of the great things to do is to talk to yourself about maybe they're a bit negative, but also how can I keep them positive? So one of the things I like to do in terms of that is go, is this real to me? How is it influencing me? And do I need to be thinking about this at the moment? And sometimes by addressing that thought and stepping it to the side, helps me then move forward. Our thoughts are really important, but also we need to keep them in check. It's good to stay positive as best we can, and sometimes we can do that by filtering negative information and news and stuff that comes into our thoughts. Next slide, please. This is a great slide because it spells pace. And the last time I did this presentation, I asked for everybody to write it down and take it away. So please do that. This is a really good slide that you could do just for your pleasure, just for your self-care, just to help you with your thoughts and your thinking. Obviously, the first one is to pause. Talked a little bit about that with breathing. Just pause. Don't take that phone call. Don't answer that email just now. Just pause. Take a little time to step away and, check your self-talk, check your breathing. Just pause. It's a simple act. Sometimes it's really hard to do. Second one is to act. And I really like this. Physical activity is really, really good for our mental health. And that physical activity can simply be walking around the park. It could be walking to the shop. It could be, if you're a runner or I'm a swimmer. I was down in at Bronte Beach this morning swimming because I needed to center myself today and I needed to act. So I went down and had a swim because I knew that would be help me set myself up for the day. So acting is really important. Physical activity, your nutrition, and your sleep. Sleep is a self-care thing, and you need to make sure that you're getting plenty of that. So act. Connecting is also really important. And during the past 3 or 4 years, we've had trouble with that through COVID and all sorts of things. And you as individuals, if you are a sole trader, work alone a lot of the time. So connection is really important. So how are you connecting to your work colleagues? So your community within your working network, how are you connecting to your family? How are you connecting to your friends? How are you taking time for you to connect to people? Because that sociability, that time connecting is really important. And I like, and sometimes a phone call is a great way to connect rather than a text message because we can talk to people, we can hear how they're feeling, we get a real sense of how things are going. So connection is really important. And the final thing is enjoy. So do you have a hobby or do you have an activity that you really enjoy and you love doing and it's just for you? Lots of you will say yes to that. Some of you might say, oh, I might not have time. Find that activity that you really love and enjoy and do that. PACE, please write it down. Please pause, even when it's challenging. Act, get out and do something. Eat well, sleep well, connect with the right people, and do stuff that you love and enjoy. That's just for you. Next slide, please. This is the final one of the activities, and this is one of the most important. I have been practicing gratitude for a very long time. And I talked about it during COVID that I would often walk around when I was on my own and I would practice it by speaking it out loud. When we say something out loud, we hear it ourselves and it resonates incredibly well with us. So therefore, practice gratitude. Now, gratitude is something that you can do anywhere, anytime. I love to do it after a swim. I look out at the ocean and I just start talking about what I'm grateful for. It doesn't have to be structured. It doesn't have to be the big thing that happened yesterday that I was grateful for or something monumental. It can be the simplest pleasures in life. I was grateful for that coffee chat with a friend the other day. I was so grateful for the connection to a friend I hadn't spoken to for a while, whatever they are. I often talk about gratitude to family, to friends, to situations, to people, and it makes an incredible amount of difference. Because remember before when we talked a little bit about the controlling your thinking. Sorry, I got a bit lost then. Controlling your thinking. Practicing gratitude helps me to stay positive. So try it. And try it when you speak to people, when you're doing those connections. Please try it every day. I guarantee you it will have a really profound effect because it has on me, and it really has helped with a lot of the other things we've talked about, the pleasures in life, our positive thinking. So there, and then the final one. Next slide, please. Is sometimes things just get a little too difficult and we need help. Think back to the mental health continuum. Sometimes we slide into that at-risk or struggling area and we really need help. Never be ashamed of that and reach out earlier for support. There are wonderful supports. Obviously, I'm very close to Beyond Blue for the volunteer work that I do with it. And so they're a great institution. But, you have your family and friends, you have other institutions, Mel's going to be talking about NASBO, there's lots of things. Never be afraid to reach out early. Never be afraid to get that support because sometimes we need it. And I was saying to the others earlier before we got on here that about 6 weeks ago, I actually had to stop and take check of myself because I had been doing so much for so many people that I had forgotten about me. And I actually needed to remind myself of the things that I talk about in these talks. And the key thing for me was self-care. And I actually had to make a change about a change in what I was doing to get back to looking after me. So never be afraid to reach out for support. Never be afraid to be sharing or asking with somebody else, because the sooner you do that, the sooner you'll be back into that flourishing area in the mental health continuum. Thank you. Next slide, please. And that is all from me. And thank you very much for listening to me. I really hope there are a number of things that you can take away today. And please use them every day. Over to you, Mel. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tim. I always just love hearing you present. I could listen to you talk about this topic all day. And I just want to say a big thank you to everybody listening in today, everyone who's made this, who's come along today. And I must admit, I've been looking at the chat, and I just want to say a big thank you. I'm so grateful to all of you today for being so engaged. Some of the things I've been reading have really warmed my heart, especially reading all the things that you do, that you enjoy. There's been ideas on there about lots of gardening, and someone has chickens, which I thought was amazing, and someone does Pilates, and someone called George wrote, you know what, I'm feeling better already. And I thought, what a great testimony to say, just coming here today, just as Tim said earlier, you're putting your self-care and yourself first. And that's really amazing. So thank you everyone for being here today and giving us the opportunity to present to you. My name is Mel Novak. I'm the Small Business Engagement Senior Advisor at Beyond Blue. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is just one of the programs that we have at Beyond Blue. We've got many programs, but we do have a a program that's designed specifically for you. It's designed specifically for small business owners, and it's called NewAccess for small business owners. And I'm going to be telling you a little bit about that today. We have been here before and presented to the Tax Practitioners Board some time ago, and I think it was probably during a time when COVID was more of an issue, and things have changed since then. Things have, COVID is no longer an issue, but we're still seeing mental health issues and concerns, particularly within the small business community. So it's really important to address this and have a look at what options are available that could help. So I thought what might be a great place to start is just a quick reminder on what the NewAccess for Small Business Owners program is. Next slide, please. Thank you. So for those of you who maybe haven't heard about the NASBO program, or for those of you who have attended a session previously but just would like to have an update, the program that we have is called the NewAccess for Small Business Owners program. It's a real mouthful, so we call it the NASBO program for short. So if you just call it NASBO, we're all going to know what you're talking about. In a nutshell, I've just put the details on this slide to keep it really simple. This program is a free mental health coaching program. It was developed in 2020 by Beyond Blue specifically for small business owners. You have to be a small business owner in order to take part in this program. And what we consider to be a small business owner is anyone with less than 20 staff. It's as simple as that. It was developed in 2020 by Beyond Blue for small business owners because we knew with COVID coming along, the small business owner community were going to need some support. And we also acknowledged that small business owners are exposed to unique risks that the rest of the population don't see, and these unique stressors put small business owners at a much higher risk than the general population, and that's why it's so important to have a specialist program for small business owners. So it's designed for small business owners who are showing early signs and symptoms of anxiety, stress, or depression. It incorporates low-intensity cognitive behavioral therapy. So this isn't talk therapy. This is actually, it has a clinical basis where we'll actually be coaches working with the participants will be teaching skills and tools and strategies and techniques that you can actually take on board and use. It offers 6 sessions, 6 30-minute sessions, 1 a week for 6 weeks. One of the reasons why we selected just 30 minutes for a session is because a lot of feedback we had when developing this program, we worked very closely with the small business owner community, and we were consistently told small business owners don't have time. And one of the reasons, as Tim mentioned earlier in those triangles, where the small business owner self-care was right at the bottom of the list of priorities. One of the reasons for that is that small business owners were saying, we just don't have time. Our businesses take up so much time. We're working 6 days a week. I even saw that mentioned in the chat, people saying, we just don't have time. Even if I acknowledge that I might need help, we don't have time. So this program has been developed so that it will be as accessible as possible for small business owners and will just require 1 half hour, 30 minutes of your time per week for 6 weeks. There is the option to extend that out for another 2 sessions if required, but essentially you're looking at just a half hour session, 1 a week for 6 weeks. It's Commonwealth government funded, and I think I may have mentioned this before. It's completely free, so there's no charge for this program. It offers coaching delivered by coaches, and this is perhaps the best feature of the program is all of the coaches are either small business owners themselves or they have worked within a small business. From the research that we've done, we found that small business owners can be very reluctant to seek help for lots of different reasons. But something that was indicated by the surveys that we did and the research that we did was that small business owners would be much more inclined to reach out for help if they knew they had a coach who had walked in the same shoes as them, who knows what it's like to be a small business owner, understands all the stresses involved, and it would be like talking peer to peer rather than feeling you're talking to somebody that just doesn't understand what it's like. So all of the coaches have either come from a small business background, have worked as a small business owner, or have worked within a small business. The program is completely confidential. No doctor's referral is required. It's available nationally, so no matter where you are in Australia, you can take part, and it's available by phone or by Teams or by Zoom, like what we're doing now, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday to Friday. So it's highly accessible. You could call from home, you could call from work, you can call before or after work. We wanted to make this program as accessible as possible. And lastly, the data that we're seeing is just tremendous. We have seen such wonderful data, which I will touch upon in a couple of slides. But not only is the data really positive, we're also seeing evidence of sustained recovery. And what that means is when people have gone through the program, the improvement that they're seeing is actually sustained for the long term. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, Tim touched upon this slide earlier, and like he said, he loves this slide. I love this slide too. When I first started working at Beyond Blue, I was introduced to the mental health continuum, which is really a great way of explaining that our mental health isn't static. You can move up and down the continuum depending on what is going on in your life. And really the concern is if we get to that kind of at-risk struggling stage where the yellow is starting to move into the orange, this is where we said people, if you're in this stage of the continuum for maybe 2 weeks or more, that's a time when you really need to reach out for help. So in terms of the symptoms you might be feeling, this might be you're losing joy in the things that you used to enjoy. You're feeling deeply fatigued. Maybe your partner has been saying to you, are you okay? I'm a little bit worried about you. Maybe you're feeling teary, getting emotional, not feeling like you have control of the tears and they're coming at times that just aren't appropriate. Or maybe you're feeling like things are just incredibly overwhelming. Even small things are just too much. It's like you just can't deal with things that you used to be able to deal with quite well. If you're in this stage, which we would say is that kind of at-risk struggling stage where the yellow is starting to turn into the orange, NASBO is designed for you. That is exactly that's exactly the type of participant that the program is designed for. However, what's really interesting is we're actually seeing about 15% of people month in, month out who take part in the program who are in this healthy stage. They're in the green. And these people, these small business owners are saying, we're actually feeling okay. We're well, but we want to stay well. We want to build emotional resilience. We want to be able to learn tools, learn techniques, learn strategies that will not only help us, but help us stay well. So this is really interesting, and this is really an opportunity for anyone who's listening today. If you're currently not feeling 100% and you think you would like to inquire about NASBO in order to get well, NASBO is for you. It is designed exactly for you. But also, if you're listening to this today and you're thinking, well, actually, I'm not in that at-risk struggling stage, but I'm interested in learning tools, techniques, strategies that will help me stay well, NASBO is also for you. We would always be happy to hear from participants or small business owners who are at either end of that section of the continuum. I will say here that the furthest end of the continuum where we see crisis, this is the red area, and unfortunately in the crisis stage, this is where we see people who are really struggling. They're going through a really tough time. This might be where people are unfortunately suicidal or self-harming. NASBO isn't designed for people who are at that extreme end of the spectrum. However, we will never turn anyone away, and anyone who reaches out to Beyond Blue would always be referred to the appropriate help. Next slide, please. So I would like to share some fantastic results about the program. Overall, the program is seeing wonderful results. Our overall recovery rate is about 77%. So that means almost 8 out of 10 small business owners who are going through the program are going through what we class as a clinical recovery. They're actually going through a threshold, which we class as a clinical recovery. And when you think that's achieved in just 6 weeks, that is actually quite remarkable. This is the 90% 94% of participants said that they would recommend the NASBO program to another small business owner, which is wonderful. And what I find really interesting is this last statistic here, which is 90% of participants felt more productive and able to address future business challenges as a result of going through the program. Now, that's really interesting because it's showing the small business owners who are going through the program, they're not just improving from a mental health and well-being point of view, they're actually learning skills and techniques that are helping them in their business. It's actually assisting them as a business owner and improving their ability to deal with business challenges, which is really, really positive and a very interesting statistic. Next slide, please. Now, I must say this is my favourite slide of the presentation. This again is showing the improvement that we're seeing for people, small business owners who are going through the program. This was a sample. We took a sample of about 200 small business owners, and we looked at how they progressed throughout the program. And we do ask participants to complete psychological questionnaires. When they come into the program, they're assessed, and they also complete this program, these questionnaires at each of the 6 sessions that they have with a coach. The questionnaires are very simple. They take less than 5 minutes to complete, and they measure their clinical questionnaires that will measure anxiety, stress, or depression. And what you can see in this sample is when the participant, or the small business owner, came into the program, they were given their assessment, and they were reaching scores from moderate to bordering on severe anxiety, stress, or depression. They went through their 6 sessions, and we administered the questionnaires again. And after the 6 sessions, you can see the improvement was there straight away after 6 sessions, which is fantastic. Their anxiety, stress, and depression had come down to a low impairment or minimal impairment. With this group, we then went out after 30 days, because there is always a concern that once somebody leaves a program like this, are they going to go back? Are they going to fall back into their old ways when they don't have a coach or a program that they're attending? But what we found amazingly is that level of improvement, if you can see from the graph, it actually improved a little bit further. And then we went back out again to this group at 6 months, and we saw again that we administered the questionnaires, and we could see again that the levels of stress, anxiety, and depression had actually improved even further. So these small business owners were now rated as either minimal to low impairment on those clinical markers. Now, this is really an indication of the beauty of cognitive behavioural therapy. Cognitive behavioural therapy is all about teaching you skills, techniques, tools, ideas that you can pull out of your kit bag, if you like, when times are tough, and you can utilise them and implement them when perhaps you need to, because times will be tough. We can't control that. There will be times that unfortunately things don't go our way, or we experience tough times. But this program is all about teaching us how we can support ourselves, how we can learn that emotional resilience, so that when tough times come along, we'll be prepared for them. Next slide, please. So if any of you are attending today and thinking, perhaps, do you know what, that's me. I really haven't been feeling 100%. My partner has been asking me if I'm okay. I have been teary. Maybe I haven't been able to sleep. Things have been too much. I have been struggling. I'm looking at the future, and I'm no longer optimistic. I'm worried about the future, and I'm losing the joy in things that I used to enjoy. Please reach out. Please write down this number, take a picture of this screen, and know that this program is designed for you. It's designed exactly for you. It's completely confidential. It's completely free. And the testimonials and feedback that we're receiving are so wonderful, so positive. I would really love you to reach out if that's you. On the other side of the coin, if there's someone in your life at the moment that you know who is a small business owner that could benefit from this, maybe it's a colleague of yours, maybe it's a client, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's someone in your family, maybe it's your partner, take this number down and ask them to give us a call. Ask them to reach out and inquire about the NASBO program. an opportunity not only for you, but it's also an opportunity for you to refer to others. And we do find attending these kind of events is wonderful, because as small business owners, the nature of the work that you do, you often have clients who are small business owners. So you're in a wonderful position to help the people around you, in addition to supporting yourself. Next slide, please. I think we might actually be moving to Q&A now with Julie, if that's okay.
Thank you so much, Mel. And thank you, Tim. That was amazing. The things that you've shared today, I think, have been really helpful, and really appreciate, you both coming on board today. So I've got quite a few questions that have come up, so I might just dive into those so that we can get to as many as we can. So I've got a question here from Alan, and he's curious as to what is the definition of a small business in terms of what we've referred to today.
I can answer this, Tim, if that's okay with you. So it's really very simple. So effectively, we look at anyone who's got an ABN. It doesn't matter what the structure of your business is. It doesn't matter if you're a sole trader or what the actual business type is. As long as you've got an ABN and you've got less than 20 staff, we would welcome an inquiry from you.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Mel. I've got a question from Lachlan, and it might be both of you sort of would like to contribute to this one, but I'll just read it out to you. It's saying, can you provide any discussion, suggestions or phrasing to assist us in balancing our work life with management? Lachlan's saying that he's under pressure to constantly meet deadlines, as you've noted, but not sure how to start the conversation and ask management. I'm burning out and want to allow myself to take some time to breathe.
Tim, do you want to answer that one?
I can answer that. That's a great question, Lachlan, and it's a very typical question of how so many people feel. And I have experienced situations like that, and how I felt was, if I say something, will that be detrimental to me? So that's often why they don't. However, the other side of it is, if we're really caring for ourselves and we have a structure in our life, like we talk some of those things, like the exercise, the social, and we have that, then I think that it's important to share that in your work environment and really explain to your boss what you can contribute in your work time and what other activities you have that are in place to look after yourself. It's not an easy discussion to have, because some people don't like people coming and saying, I need to self-care or look after my mental health. But I do think it's a really important one. And if you're finding that you're burning out and you're finding that you're under real pressure, then it's important to have a really open and honest discussion with your boss about how you can contribute really well, but what you also need to do for you. Mel, do you want to add to that?
I think I echo what Tim has said, and also making sure that you're putting your self-care first. And I know that sounds like such a cliche, but self-care is not a selfish thing. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we're going to experience it's going to really affect us. So I really echo what Tim has said there.
Well, thank you both. I think that's really helpful. I've got another question now, and I'm just curious, is there a program like NASBO but for small business employees or for individuals?
Very good question. There is a Beyond Blue program, another Beyond Blue program that is for, it's similar to NASBO. It's not designed for small business owners. It's called NewAccess. So this is NewAccess for small business owners. There's also a program called NewAccess. The only difference with that program, though, is it's only available to people who are living in certain regions, catchment areas in Queensland and New South Wales. If you were to go onto the Beyond Blue website and just put in NewAccess, it will come up and it will ask you what catchment area you're in, and you'll be able to find out if you or someone you know would be eligible.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Just another question now around Beyond Blue and the support that they offer. Do they offer support in multiple languages?
Yes.
Yes.
So we've got interpreters. If you were to call the Beyond Blue support service, which is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you could even call on Christmas Day if you wanted to, and somebody would be there to take the call. All of the counsellors are trained in the certificate for mental health coaching, and the average call duration is about 20 minutes. But if we were to have somebody call who is perhaps English isn't their first language, we do have interpreters that are able to take that call. And also with the NASBO program, we do have a First Nations coach. So if we do have small business owners who are First Nations or called community, we do have a coach that they could be assigned to.
Fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. Next question I've got here is just curious around what sort of mental health training the coaches for NASBO have. Would you give us a bit of information about that?
Yeah, so really great question. So all of the coaches have had the equivalent of certificate for in mental health coaching. The other thing that's really interesting is that although we can't describe the NASBO program as a clinical program, so it's not the same as going to see a counsellor or a mental health practitioner. These are mental health coaches who've done the equivalent of certificate for in mental health coaching. However, behind the scenes, there are clinicians that oversee every single meeting that they have with a small business owner. And the clinicians are psychiatrists, they're mental health counsellors, and they will oversee every single meeting that a coach has had with a small business owner, especially if there are concerns. So if anything's coming up where we're thinking, actually, this person might need a higher level of care, we call it a step up. This person might need a little bit more support. The clinicians are on hand to support with that. And we wanted to put that in place so that the small business owners who are taking part in the program have an additional tier of care and support around them.
Well, thanks, Mel. And I think that's a good segue actually into the next question that I've got for you. And that is in relation to what people should do if they're in a crisis situation. What can they do to get some relief and help in an urgent situation?
Obviously, this is it's really important to reach out to someone that you know. If there's anyone that if there's anyone that you can reach out to, I would say call Beyond Blue. We don't promote ourselves as a crisis support service. However, we will always take care of anyone who calls the Beyond Blue support service. Remember, it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we will get you the support that is required. However, it's really Lifeline that is well positioned as a crisis support service. That's their strategy that they have for supporting Australians. So I would recommend Lifeline, and I would recommend reaching out to someone that you know, and ultimately getting in touch with your GP who would be able to support you.
Wonderful advice. Thank you for that, Mel. And we'll also share some links after the webinar today. So some other resources that people can use to go to as well if they're struggling. Tim, I've got a question for you now, and I was just curious why you became a Beyond Blue speaker and what you're hoping to inspire in others by doing that.
Thanks, Julie. I became a Beyond Blue speaker about 6.5 years ago. I, for many years, ran a small business, and reading a lot of the comments and thoughts and questions, I can echo because I experienced a lot of that myself. So what I did when I ended up selling and exiting my business was I wanted to give back. And I thought, how could I do that? And I had already been volunteering with Beyond Blue at events, handing out information, collecting donations, things like that. And they had a speaker intake, so I applied for that. And one of the things that I found is that I could give back unconditionally. Beyond Blue are a great organisation to be able to do that. But I also could then go out and talk to many people in forums such as this, but I also speak in many other different forums about anxiety, depression, and also about the things that I've experienced and what I do differently in my life. So a number of those things that I talked about today are pretty standard, but I practice a lot of those. So if I can genuinely talk to people about that and give them some hope, a bit of interest, and really talk from the heart, then hopefully I can just help a number of people along the way. So that's why I did that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. That's beautiful. And it's really wonderful to hear firsthand experience. I think that actually does help people, like you say, just to understand that you're not alone a lot of the times is a really good thing to know. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mel, just another question here for you about NASBO. And this one is there any sort of plans at all to extend the NASBO hours so that it's available after 8 p.m.? Sometimes it's harder for small businesses to get to sessions during business hours.
Yep, and that is a great question. Thank you for that. The answer to that question is yes. There is there's some work that's going on at the moment to see if we can maybe extend the hours on a Friday, and also maybe have options to be able to see small business owners on a weekend. So my response to that is please watch this space. We've had that feedback quite a few times, and it's something that we're looking into. So great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. I think that's probably all the time that we've got today for questions, but thank you everyone for popping those through. And if we haven't put an answer to you today, we will try to get to you out of session with a response as well. So hold tight and we'll get to you as soon as we can. Just to finish up, I just wanted to go back to you, Mel and Tim. Just if you could give us, 1 minute or something about a takeaway or action from today's session, anything that you'd suggest that our listeners take on board, particularly from today's session. So Mel, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julie, and thank you once again for having us. And I just want to say again, I am so impressed by the engagement in the chat. Like, it's so wonderful to see what a lovely group you have. My final point is, please, everyone attending, take a picture of this slide with the contact details on for NASBO. Even if you're thinking this might be something for yourself, or maybe something for someone you know, or there may be someone you're going to meet in the next few weeks or next few months, and you'll think to yourself, oh, I wish I'd taken down the details of that program. My advice is take a picture and just keep it on your phone, because you never know when you might want to reach out to Beyond Blue or reach out to the NASBO program, or you might meet someone where you think actually this could be something that could really help this person. October is Mental Health Month, so this is a great time to be talking about self-care and putting your mental health first. And as I said to you before, self-care is not a selfish act. It's something to be very proud of. I say it quite regularly that practicing self-care is like having a date with yourself. It's just being able to put yourself first. And thank you all once again. It's been wonderful to present to you today.
Thank you, Mel. And Tim, did you have anything you wanted to finish with?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, what a joy to be invited along here to speak to everybody. And I've been reading as quickly as I can the comments. And what I love most is a couple of people, or a number of people have said that sometimes they just need to stop and listen to something a little different to create a change. So I get quite inspired when I hear that. But my parting thing is I love the PACE, P-A-C-E. Write that down. It's pause, act, connect, enjoy. And then over and above all of that, please practice gratitude every single day. And a combination of that will help you step forward in a very positive direction to looking after your mental health. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And I have noticed that a couple of people have put in the chat today about continuing this conversation and having more sessions like this. So we will absolutely look into doing that for you. And we've really enjoyed working with both Mel and Tim and some other members of Beyond Blue, where we've had some other sessions in the past. So we're hoping to continue that relationship. And we thank you both once again for all of that amazing information and just your honesty and being open and sharing your experience experiences today. So thank you for that. And just to finish up today, I just wanted to give you some information to stay in touch with us as well. So Mel has shared the Beyond Blue, but I'll just let you know that you can keep in touch with us by jumping onto our website at tpb.gov.au, and you can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter. We also have our e-news, which is our monthly newsletter that you can subscribe to. So once again, just jump on our website and subscribe to that if you haven't already. We also have our YouTube channel, which has an amazing amount of webinar recordings on there, so you can jump on and have a look at those, and you can still claim CPE for viewing those as well, which is great. And yes, they're always available for you to view at your convenience. So as we said, that you can actually claim today's webinar as CPE as well, so you can claim 1 hour for attending today. And I just wanted to let everyone know that I have also noticed there's a lot of comments in there about the changes that are going on at the moment with the TASA and the code determination. And I just wanted to say that I have actually booked in 2 webinars. There's one happening this Friday. So if you'd like to register for that, you can do that on our website. And we've got another one coming up next week as well. And then we'll have 2 further webinars coming up very soon. So they'll be going into the guidance, and hopefully we'll be able to seek feedback from yourselves, and we'll be able to use that to finalise any of our information products as well. So now just to finish up, we do have an exit survey, and that will pop up in your browser when you leave the webinar today. We would really appreciate it if you could take the time to complete it. It's very quick, and it just really helps us to know how we've gone today, and also any topics that you might be interested in hearing about from us. We would love you to let us know, and we'll endeavour to build those into our program as well. So thank you everyone for coming along today, and thank you again to Mel and to Tim, and we do hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks everyone. Talk again soon.